to cover. That's what, that's, some of them are calling me, that's what I'm hearing, I just was asking. Short to sub. Sure.
And believe me, when these go, I'll be there, Tyson. But I just can't breathe. I just can't. We're having short subs on our in fact, I'm looking to start this, like, we only had 8 substitutes for the entire county. Wow. Very well, Mondays are first year, I went here to do that as well, and it's just, it's taking off where you start learning next. It taught me nothing about life and people, it taught me nothing. Hello. Yeah. In church, we said elbow down. That too, it sounded
Everyone, I want you to know that this meeting is being recorded.
The meeting's being recorded. Can you say that again, Patty?
The meeting is being recorded.
Well, I just got back from UAC and pictures of people around like a so I've been with you in Kansas State. 3 weeks. Well, then goes down. Well, and then you go down for 3 weeks to see if it's full in the right version. And then he has the not gas, but yeah. So then he'll have the brace, I guess, for 3 weeks.
Just long enough.
He has a lot of inside.
Not going on, my finger broke off right there. He said broke off. Broke off. That does not hurt. So that number right there where they have me in that cast. When you go to physical therapy, I can still That's what they told me, it's a double shoe, one fracture for
Really?
at least another year.
Come here, Big Ray, you can sit right beside me.
Well, they told him, you could practice the house rules.
Here, Big Ray, you're out of uniform.
Oh, man, I'd be afraid. Hammering that thing.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. That stuff hurts. Go ahead.
Isn't that funny? Oh, it is. That's where I sit.
That was just sitting there laughing. Sweet. Yeah.
Can you hear me, Lisa?
Yes, Brian, I can hear you.
Okay.
I'll be back out there, should be back out tomorrow. Yes, sir. Thank you.
It's 5:07.
Brian's on here.
It's 6 o'clock. I'm gonna go ahead and call the Gilmer County Board of Education meeting to order. Brian,
Yes, sir.
Tammy, Jason. Yep. Tom. I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Patty, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I think Tammy's online now too.
I am.
The superintendent's with us online this evening, so she'll be able to listen and hear. Before we start into the delegations, there's several of them. And the only thing that I ask is be respectful. I know a lot of you have a lot to say and we want to hear it. But that's my role. Be respectful when you talk. That being said,
Here, you might talk. Okay, Doug, I'm probably gonna bring it up there and let you watch it, because I don't have anything to hook it up to here. But it is presentation.
well, let's set it to see if we can see if the president.
I think you can, it's turned up.
I went to physiologist, and the physiologist did a physiologist study of the human body and how the human body works. So if you're questioning my status as a scientist, that's what I do. The physiology of human gas exchange is cited ad nauseum in scientific and medical literature. Humans have evolved 300 to 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide for human survival and maintenance of homeostasis. Most health departments will brain, the heart, the lungs, kidneys, and the immune system. And healing CO2 levels at higher than 600 parts per million will cause hypercapnia and has been documented to cause the following conditions: moderate to severely reduced mental performance, and children are especially affected by levels of carbon dioxide over 600 parts per million. In fact, the standards in which you state in your health and safety plan have a standard of 870 parts per million as its standard. Hypercapnia. Just ignore that meaning. That means it's unsafe for humans. That's okay. We can ignore that. We can ignore that. Just talk and continue. Hypercapnia.
No, it's not. I had it on my list. To get the,
Well, I understand. I mean, I thank you for bringing that up. Probably a lot of what we've seen. You want to elaborate any?
no, I think a picture, in my mind, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I mean, you can get up here and talk. I'm sure everybody has been. But when you see it in a video and she's trying to breathe and talk and her meter's gone off because the levels are too high, that speaks volumes to me. So that's why I don't think, I don't like the mask mandate. If they worked, that might be one thing, but they don't. That's proven also. And I can't breathe when I wear a mask. And having these little guys wear masks for 7-8 hours a day, I think it's abuse. I mean, that's my opinion. That would be like me trying to muzzle my cats, and that wouldn't go well, for that period of time. But, they just, and when I see pictures of them, I'm really glad to see pictures from the elementary school because that's where my heart is. Sorry. It breaks my heart to see them with the mask on.
Thank you. Stephanie? Jesse?
I'm going to read this because.
Hey, Doug, I can't hear who's speaking, so if they can announce themselves, that way I can hear, because I can't really, it sounds very muffled.
Yeah, you can't hear it very well today at all.
I agree. It's not very good at all.
Yeah, pick your thing up and move it right over here. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So we have Stephanie Chapman.
Good evening. I am here today as a teacher and a parent to discuss the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of our children, my children, throughout the school year. My first concern that I would like to address is in regard to the length of quarantining students. Quarantine guidelines need to be shortened. We are sending healthy kids home to quarantine, and they are missing the vital, in-person quality education by being at home. If they are allowed to test after day 5, they should be able to return that same day that the results come in. When speaking to the health department within the last 2 weeks, I was told the reason they encourage the 8-day rule is to make sure that students don't end up developing symptoms. There is no rhyme or reason to this rule, considering they've already been okay to take the test on day 5. For example, if a student can test on Wednesday because that's their day 5, according to the health department, they still cannot return to school until Monday. It makes zero sense to continuing to keep these kids out of school if they are getting negative test results. Let them continue their activities and resume in-person instruction. I recently spoke to a parent in another state and asked if they were dealing with the multiple students being quarantined day after day. They said it wasn't as big of an issue there because their county or their state used COVID relief money to hire extra nurses. If a student isn't feeling well, if the parents give them the okay, the nurse tests them. If it's negative, they're sent straight back to class. It's the same with exposed children as well. Once again, we are keeping healthy kids out of school for far too long. There was recent discussion of students testing poor on their test scores. Are you seriously surprised? The seniors at our school haven't had a regular school year with shutdowns since they were freshmen. And I have a senior and can vouch for that. I guess my question for you this evening is, let's say we have 100 kids in quarantine. What is the percentage of those students quarantined that are testing positive as a result of a direct contact within the school system? As an educator, I see this happening daily. My guess is the percentage is very low compared to those still remaining in the school. For one example, I had a student last year that was put into quarantine at least 5 times. They missed a total of at least 48 days of in-person schooling due to quarantining alone. Out of all the times this student was quarantined, not one time did they test positive. I had multiple students in similar situations. What is it going to take to keep our healthy kids in school? There must be a better solution than quarantining students for long periods of time. They have had too much taken away from them in the last 3 years, and it's time to stop. I have a child that is soon going to be starting out on his own. Now is the time to strive for scholarships, both academically and/or within athletics. We are causing more harm than good by having our kids out of school or dismissed from games due to the excessive quarantining. After many conversations with the health department, we are told that vaccinated students can remain in school, even though it's widely known and confirmed through discussions that vaccinated individuals can still contract and spread COVID. This has caused division between students, teammates, and peers, and it's uncalled for. Teachers are telling kids to get vaccinated, and that should be left up to the parent. And that happened in my situation. I've had teachers tell my child, if you want to play football, then why don't you go get vaccinated? Uncalled for. Frankly, that question of whether my child is vaccinated or not should never be coming out of a teacher's mouth. I am the parent. His father is his parent. And that is up to us whether or not we make that decision. It should not even be. He is under 18 years old, and no one else should have that authority to influence him. Not only are we forcing kids to be out of school physically, but have you ever thought of the mental and emotional toll you are putting on young students? My youngest child is currently in 1st grade this year. He has unfortunately never got to experience a normal school year, and his love of school has drastically changed in the last 2 years. Last year, because of the constant talk of masks, sanitizing, fear of sickness, and excessive hand washing, his hands last year were so raw that we had to start putting ointments and bandaging his hands every day he would come home from school. He began to have an obsession with washing his hands, and no matter how bad they felt, he insisted on washing them over and over the minute they got dirty. This fear was not instilled in him within our home, but rather at school. His hands bled from the tips of his fingers all the way down past his wrists. The thought of having to bend his hands to do small tasks made him cry every night. They finally, once school had ended for summer, began to heal. This past week, Chase lost his front tooth, and he was so excited to show his classmates. When we got home from school that evening, we asked him around the dinner table what the other kids thought of him missing that front tooth. He sadly reminded us that no one saw his tooth that day because they were in a mask. They are the little moments that kids should be remembering. You may think that losing a tooth is something silly, but not to him. In 2019 to 20, there was a total of 188 deaths due to the flu among students. In 2020 to 21, the number of COVID deaths among students was only 121. And yes, I know one is too many. But folks, it is time to stop instilling fear in the lives of our kids and let them enjoy life. Thank you.
Allison Gray, can you hear me? Patty, Brian, Tammy, can you hear us?
Yeah.
I have mine written out as well. I didn't want to miss anything, and I get a little flustered speaking in public, and, well, here I am, and I want to preface what I'm about to say by acknowledging that I realize that some of these policies that you guys are forced to enforce are not your policies. But as our elected officials representing us, we expect you to elevate these concerns. And I come to you with two issues. The first being the mask mandate. I've had kids in the school system for 13 years. I myself attended public school. Never until last year have we ever wore masks during school. During flu season or not flu season, COVID is spread the same way as the flu. Respiratory droplets from an infected person are passed to someone through a heavy exhale, cough, sneeze, etc. In the past, we've always been told to stay home when you're sick. You can return 24 hours after your symptoms are gone. Never have we relied on masks to keep us safe. In 2019, the World Health Organization is quoted as saying, "There is no evidence that masks are effective in reducing transmission." A mask is only effective when worn in a sterile manner. You can't tell me that pulling it out of your pocket, using it as a slingshot, wearing it around your wrist, and then sticking it on your face is sterile or even sanitary. You can't tell me that running a mile in gym class with their faces covered is good for them. It's harboring germs and bacteria like a facial petri dish. These masks are not serving their purpose, so why are we putting kids through it? I, as a parent, am in charge of my children's health. I do not consent to them being forced to wear a medical device. I, as a parent, do not see proof that this is helping my children physically, emotionally, or socially. I realize some people feel protected wearing a mask, and I'm not trying to take that away from them. But for my healthy children with no symptoms, it is not necessary for them to wear a mask for a virus with a survival rate over 99%. My next issue is quarantine. First off, these PCR tests are for coronavirus. An example of a coronavirus is the common cold. So these tests do not differentiate between COVID, the flu, or the common cold, hence the disappearing flu numbers from last year. The new tests that actually find COVID cases will be released in December. My youngest son has been quarantined twice so far this year. You have attendance policies because it is proven that being in school in person is so important, yet you're sending kids home who are perfectly healthy with no symptoms. Let's say I have a child that struggles to read. Let's say this child has an IEP. He needs the extra help that he gets at school. I am not a trained educator, much less am I qualified to give him that extra help. Let's say this child was starting to see improvements, gained some confidence. His teacher was bragging on his progress. This week, he's home with me, and I'm fighting him tooth and nail to finish or even start his assignments. This struggle with reading is hard on him mentally. We've always reminded him that different people are good at different things. He has to keep working at his reading, but he is really good at football. Yesterday, he missed his last regular season football game. Actually, it was the first game he's ever missed in his 5 years of playing. He has playoffs to be preparing for. This is senseless. He has no symptoms. He is quarantined for sitting near someone at lunch. We were told we're going to wear masks so we don't have to quarantine. I have been to the school and I've seen the cafeteria during lunchtime. The kids are distanced. Maybe not a full 6 feet, but they are apart. I have no fear of my child getting sick while pulling down his mask to eat lunch. Same as I do not fear him becoming ill while being maskless at recess, football practice, church, Foodland, Walmart, or anywhere else. For this current quarantine, we were contacted the same day as his exposure, but let's talk about the last time he was quarantined. I was contacted on a Friday afternoon to come get him for an exposure that happened on Monday. What is the point in sending him home after that much time had passed? The damage was done. I will also point out that when I arrived to get him, he was still in the classroom with his classmates. None of this makes sense. Make it make sense. Thank you.
Joy?
Hello, my name is Joy Wine, and I'm here to talk about basically the education that you're providing for my children, or the lack of. Trinity, well, my oldest, she's not allowed to attend school after August the 25th until she was able to get her second vaccine. And although seniors from Lewis County were allowed to attend until September 22nd, so if she would have been allowed, like, there's no really date. What I was given was that they broke the code, and that they shouldn't have done that. Lewis County also broke the code. But if Trinity would have been allowed to attend until she got that immunization, she wouldn't have missed 9 days of in-school instruction. She also was not given any work to do while she was at home at that time. So she's actually got some bad grades because she doesn't have that work made up yet. And whenever she went, was going to make up some of the work for that, she actually wasn't able to because she was sent on quarantine for another 8 days. So, and then some work isn't available on Schoology. So she was only able to do some work at home. So she still has other work to make up on top of that, on top of the work that she has to do daily. And then whenever she went back to work after she went back to school from quarantine, she was actually sent home due to her clothing that she was wearing, which she had already wore that outfit before and actually worn shorter shorts than that, but was sent home due to not having an appropriate length of shorts. So she missed out so far this year on basically 17 or 18 days of in-school instruction. And this is her senior year. She also ran for homecoming queen, but she was not really in school very much to, socialize and be with her friends and, campaign for that. And I don't think that she's being targeted, but whenever I bring up concerns that the decisions that are being made are negatively affecting my child and her education and her mental and social, she's literally she's wanting to go to school, and she goes to school and she literally gets sent back home with no work to complete. Also, I want to address the lunch situation, because some days they're fine. My children say their lunch is good and everything, but a lot of days they come home or they text me saying, lunch is gross, can you bring me something to eat? Or they're coming home, they're like really hungry when they get home because lunch was gross, or they didn't get enough. Sometimes they're like, oh, it was okay, but we only got this and that. So I really would like to address the issues with the quality and quantity of our food that's being given to our children. And the whole mask thing, I'd really like to see the evidence that it is working. The masks are actually being effective. What studies are being taken, or what data is being collected, and who's going over that data and deciding, oh, okay, yeah, it shows right here in schools since we've been wearing masks, the spread has been down. Whatever, I'd like to know what questions are being asked, what information is being collected, who's analyzing it, and who do they report that to. And the mask guidance doesn't really correlate. It kind of contradicts the Gilmer County STEP plan that's on the website and everything. Also, I think it's important to look at how many people in the community's already had COVID, so that would be natural immunity. How many people are vaccinated, so that would be protection as well. I think that data is important, and that we should probably look at that and see what it actually says. And also, I just think we could do a better job educating our children, providing for their needs. Thank you, guys.
Can you hear me?
Right.
Yes.
Everybody hear me?
Yes.
I can hear.
Yes.
Do we have anybody present with the state health department? or the county health department?
The health department's never freaking there. They call me.
No, we do not.
Well, I come here this evening ready to lay the stone at the feet of everybody here in the board, but I'm not so sure that that's where that stone needs to be laid. I got a phone call Thursday evening from the health department saying that my daughter was exposed Tuesday at school, at lunch. And it's very hard for me to believe that my daughter sat still for 15 minutes to eat lunch beside anybody that had COVID before she was on the board, he said. So that, to me, is, I have a voicemail on my telephone from the lady at the health department that absolutely has no idea when I can bring my kid back to school. And luckily, I work right across the street in sales at Flying W Plastics. And fortunate for me, I got time to work from home while she's not there, unlike some of these other people, I'm sure. It took a lot of doing, and I have yet to call for her homework because just today in sales, I had 65 emails and 32 phone calls. And somewhere in that time, these teachers seem to think that I have enough time to teach my kid regular class lessons throughout that day, which is absolutely unheard of and will not be done by me while a teacher gets paid and me not. And I didn't bring any notes. I don't have anything fabricated. I'm shooting from the hip. So this quarantine and stuff, my daughter could test today, and if I understand everything correctly, if she got a negative test today, it's still Wednesday before she can go back to school. I got 2 nieces that was sent home Friday, tested Saturday, and they're going to school tomorrow. So I think somebody from the health department needs to be here to explain how all this goes, because math was not figured into any of this stuff correctly. And furthermore, I want everybody to know that next spring, before I close out of this, that there's a levy, $750,000 levy that every person in this room can vote on for the school board. That may want to be taken in consideration instead of blank stares and deaf ears from everybody that's in this room that stood up and said something. Thank you.
PE and the library. It's an educational levy that supplements those.
I'm not gonna be real long-winded tonight. I think most everybody in here knows how I stand on this. I actually showed up, I wanted to get my check. The last time I was here that I asked for staying home, teaching my kids, but nobody's, I don't know if my check's not here, you don't have it ready yet. I had one question, but Stephanie had already asked it. All these kids are getting sent home to quarantine. How many of them tested positive? All 3 of them have been sent home. All 3 of them have been tested, all of them are negative. Nobody seems to have an answer on how many of them tested positive. The health department's not here. Anybody from the health department here? Nobody? I didn't figure they'd show up. So anyways, the only statement I have is from the CDC's website. Now this is to all you mask wearers or to anybody that's voting for this school recovery and guidance enforcement stuff. This is the CDC's 2021 holiday guidance. I won't be at your house to enforce this, but I want to make you aware of it. Okay, this is the holiday guidance. I wanted to print it off and bring it in here, but when I got back on my computer Friday, they'd taken it down. It's so asinine, they took it off there. But I did write 2 or 3 of them down from earlier in the week. This is the CDC's 2020 holiday guidance for if you're going to have Halloween, Christmas, or Thanksgiving dinner, or anything with people outside of your house. So if you're older, your kids are going to come over, bring the grandkids. Here you go. Here's the gospel. Try hosting a video chat with family and friends. That'd be fun. If you want to eat dinner, have an outdoor celebration with everybody 6 feet apart. Now, it may be 75 at Christmas. I don't know. It may be 20. Enjoy that. This is really fun here. Drive or walk around the community to wave at neighbors. And if you have a gift or anything, food, take it to them and leave it on the porch. And wouldn't that be nice? Go to the neighbor's house, throw it on the food on the porch, hope the dog doesn't get it, and say, Merry Christmas. What a joke. I'm just tired of the hypocrisy of all of it. I turned on a football game Saturday night. Alabama, Texas A&M, 106,000 some people, jammed on top of each other, sitting side by side. I'm sure there's somebody here with a mask on. I didn't see it. You can go to a ball game, you don't have to wear a mask. You can go to the homecoming dance, you don't have to wear a mask. But by gosh, if you go to school, you better have your mask on. You better have it on right, and don't take it down to eat. You're going to get sent home. That's all I've got.
Lisa Rawlinson.
Parents, they just don't want to be home.
So basically, I have to say pretty much the same stuff. But my daughter is in kindergarten this year. And I am one of those faithful mothers who washes and sanitizes her mask every evening. This is today. Today, my 5-year-old come home with this mask today. 8 hours. 8 hours in this. You wouldn't wear it, would you, Tom? And neither is my child, because nobody in this room has a medical degree to tell me what is best for my child. I pay her medical bills, not you guys. My children are not wearing masks. My son is quarantined because he was exposed at lunch again. Was he there 15 minutes? I doubt it, because he is required to go to workroom at lunchtime to pick up, get extra help. So was he really exposed? I doubt it. They called me, I picked him, no, I sent him home on the bus because I wasn't coming to Glenville for 29 minutes. He'd been at school all day. He could test today, but he will not be a statistic. I'm not testing him. He's not favored, he's not sick. If I test him, he can go back Thursday. We don't have school Friday, so what's the point testing? What's the point sending him Thursday? He can join the class again on Monday. We made a all call on August 26th that said, because our county has went to the orange status, we're wearing masks only on the bus. And until we go to red, we will not require our children to wear a mask. It's exactly what Patty Lowther said. We have been masked since August 26th. We have not been red at all. How many students are quarantined? Does anybody know? Because Patty won't tell us. She won't even return our phone calls or our emails. How many children are sitting at home without an education? My child cannot access his lessons through Schoology today. He's going to be home all week. What do? I've emailed his teachers. I've not heard nothing. How's he supposed to do his work? The end of the grading period is the 15th. He's going to have a week of zeros. What happens now? He just takes Fs. We get 7 Fs because we can't access our school work. Get rid of the mask. My child is not allowed to wear them. I make that rule, not you guys.
Christina Dobbins.
Okay. Are you listening to us as we ask you to consider a different route to the current situation? Does our voice count at all? We have presented you with numerous facts on why masks will not fix this problem. Clean air, clean schools, regroup to smaller exposure. All but the clean air gave us good numbers last year. Add the classroom purifiers and return to last year's school clean policies. Deep cleaning and smaller groups. Tracing kids while at school is pushing it a bit too far. Feed them in classrooms to keep them separated. I don't know the answers any more than you do. I do know our kids have missed valuable learning time while this plays out. It doesn't seem to me that missing link is being addressed. You said mask up, stay in school. You lied. See the problem? Fix it. Admit you need more advice. Hold a public meeting and let's fix this together. Let's agree to disagree and meet in the middle, because so far it's your side only. Furthermore, since masks have been mandated, our numbers are up. Admit you don't have the fix to this and ask the majority for advice, or you will lose support not only for yourself and those elected by us, but you are causing our teachers to lose respect and support as well. Remember, there is a levy up for election. We are the ones that vote for that. I also add that it not only angers me, but greatly disappoints me that students are told by teachers that masking and vaccinations are the answer. They are not paid to give opinions. They are paid to teach our children to think for themselves. I was also informed that masks need to stop being a #1 discussion because there are other issues. Best advice given, but I think the safety as a whole is important, and masking and quarantining is not the answer, nor is it effective.
Kyle?
First of all, let me say, I'm going to have a few questions and I will reclaim my time after the answers have been given. First question, are we receiving funding for putting these masks on? It's a serious question. Is the school system getting funding for this? Or is funding being withheld if we refuse to put masks on? Is that the case? Or is that not the case? Okay, great. Question 2. Who made this decision? Again, serious question. Who decided that the kids are going to wear masks? Was that y'all? Superintendent. Okay. Who was involved in that decision? This board? Why are we doing this? We're painting a picture for you guys that the county is not on board with this. Okay, I remember last board meeting, it was stated that you think 50% of the county wants this. Okay, clearly that's not the case. So why is one person making a decision that nobody wants? Can this board supersede that decision? Again, serious question. Why are we wasting our time in here if you guys can't do anything? Can you?
No, no disrespect to you, it's not a main question and answer session. I mean, I get where you're coming from.
Oh, there will be more questions. And I will wait for answers. You can stare at me blankly or you can answer them. That's your choice.
I didn't hear who was speaking.
This is Kyle Lehman.
Okay.
Mr. Barr, considering you said some last things and some things in the last meeting that seriously concerned me, I asked around about you, and considering that you were unelected, I thought maybe I better figure out who you are. So I have a screen grab of you calling those you disagree with street trash. Okay. If anybody would like to see this, I'll pass it around.
This on Facebook?
This is Facebook, street trash. Would you like to?
Street trash.
That was something shared from a friend of mine, and I'll be completely honest with you, I didn't see the top there. But we are getting a little bit frustrated with the lack of care, lack of concern, that's all.
Okay, good. That's another thing that you said that concerned me. You implied that we're not taking this seriously, that we're not taking COVID seriously, that maybe the right side of the aisle is not taking it seriously, I'm assuming, considering that's who you were calling street trash. So a year and a half of mask mandates, lockdowns, quarantines, people losing their business and their jobs, to you is not taking it seriously. You also implied that you think not only should the kids be wearing masks in school, but we should continue to wear them everywhere else. Not you, because I see you everywhere without a mask on, but me, my kids, their kids, but not you. You want to respond to that? Let me ask you this. What would you need to see? What would you need to see in order for
Delegations is
the
not.
mask mandate to end?
Delegations is not an issue for debate.
Let me ask you all of you.
They can make
What
their
would you all need
statement
to see?
and then move on. It is not a one-on-one situation.
What would,
Make your
okay,
statement
school board,
and move on.
what would you need to see in order for the mask mandate to end? How does it end? Where's the end?
Mr. Lehman, it is a
Okay.
state
I have
CDC
here
recommendation.
Okay,
We cannot
The
debate
charts,
this.
I'll pass
You
these
can
around
make
too.
your statement
To
that you
show-
cannot attack people.
show that masks are useless. Now here's, you guys have all these studies, right? And you think that we're too stupid to read the studies, I'm guessing. Well, I've read the studies. And guess what? Masks work. In a controlled setting, masks work. What I have here is graphs and charts that show that in real world application, they do not. For many of the reasons that we've seen. Disgusting masks on disgusting germ-ridden masks being put on people's faces. Okay, I know that spouses trade masks sometimes, kids trade masks. Here's the chart, I'll pass them around. They don't work. In real world application, they do not work. And I understand you're frustrated with me, I'm frustrated with you. And clearly, nobody in here is making these decisions except for Patty Lowder.
Mr. Lehman, I am making decisions based on the CDC. And delegations is not an area that you can attack people. We need to be respectful of everybody's viewpoint and opinion, and we need to do the best for schools.
You're attacking on Facebook like everybody else does.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Katie Neiman. I too am going to read what I wrote just because I get a little flustered up here. In previous meetings, we have had doctors' letters shared with us, facts that they have encountered, things that they have experienced shared with us. And I have no doubt that those have facts in them or truth to them. I also understand that fears that people have of this virus are very real. We have family members, daughters, sons, and uncles, grandparents that have illnesses, and that if they contract COVID, it's scary. It's a scary thing for them. It can make them very sick and take their life. I don't want them to life any more than anybody else does. And as I have said before, I do not have an issue with masks in general. My issue is that they are mandated for people who do not choose to wear them or put them on their kids. I want to point out that those doctor's notes that we see going around and being shared, doctors and nurses, their job requires a ton of their time. That is basically their life. Their life is in the hospitals, in the hospitals, doctors' offices, clinics. That's where they spend a lot of their time. And while I am so grateful for the time that they spend there and the devotion that they give to the people there, that is a small part of our world. And it is our world. We just stand and said the pledge, liberty and justice to all. It is our freedoms and our justices that we are using in this battle. And I hate to say battle because it makes our guards and our defenses go up, but that is exactly what it's turning into. Really quick before I move on from that, I just want to say how many other global pandemics are firing trained help. Every other pandemic in the history is accepting help from almost anybody offering it and willing to do so. However, our experience here is that facts seem to be falling on deaf ears unless it's coming from someone that they want to hear from or someone they have delegated. So I just want to share this. Someone at my daughter's cheer practice last Thursday said to me, and granted, this is not exact words because I didn't record it, but she said, if it isn't your kid and it doesn't affect them, and this, we weren't talking about masks, but it relates and made me think of, if it isn't your kid and it doesn't affect them, you should just mind your own business, don't you think? And to her, I responded, no. And that's all I said. But to you all, I will add that I feel like I have a responsibility, as it seems to these other parents and people here speaking, to stand for others who don't have a voice, like our little elementary school kiddos, or those who don't know yet that they have one, like our middle school and high schoolers. To them, I want them to know you guys can start petitions and take a stand. You guys have more resources to learn how and what than we adults ever did at your age. You are our up and coming leaders. And if you don't learn and practice now how to stand up for what you believe in and in the right ways, America is going to be in more trouble than we are in now. I also feel like I am taking a stand and speaking for those who can't because they're silenced by their jobs and fear of losing them. To them, my heart goes out because I've been in the position of having to be silenced to pay bills. I have heard about your concerns for these kids in health, in learning, in abilities, how these masks are hindering them. I've heard about your tears when the mask mandate was extended. Excuse me. I've heard your voices in sharing with me that there are staff, even principals, and more than one person has pictures of it that aren't wearing them. Right, and this is during the school day that they aren't wearing them, and yet are yelling and forcing students to wear them. I understand fears. I understand doing what you can to protect those that you love. I understand standing up for others. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. My call is the same. To the board, please drop the mandates. To all others, stand with me. Stand for our kids. Stand for their rights and for yours.
Pass it on.
We'll move into the rest of the agenda. The minutes from the 21st and September 27th meetings that were in your packet.
It was correct.
I think she read that.
Okay.
I'm making a motion to approve the minutes that were amended back to
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from September 21st and September 22nd regular meeting. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Go ahead.
Good evening. What I have to present this evening at this time under Treasurer's Report is a schedule of checks that you've written that were in your packet. Are there any questions with those at this time?
I make a motion to approve the checks to be written as presented. We have a motion and a second to approve the checks to be, the schedule of checks to be written as presented. Any questions or comments or discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Mr. Chester.
Yes, sir.
We had our special meeting last week. I just want to say, because I didn't get to catch you, that was very well prepared, well organized. Your staff was, had that down to a T. You were able to answer our questions. It was just very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any recognition of staff or students?
No, they'll be next week. The golf team's coming.
Next week?
Yes, next week. Well, the next board meeting, yes. Mm-hmm.
Tyson?
Good evening. Had an eventful couple of weeks at Gilmer County Elementary. We have some exciting things coming up that I'd like to share with the board. This past week, we had our first awards assembly of the school year. We split that up into two different assemblies. We had one for the younger guys and one for the older kids. And we celebrated a lot of positive things that were going on in the school with our students. We celebrated an Excellence in Academics Award for students in every homeroom class. That is a student that is exhibiting excellent academic abilities. And it could also be a student that's making tremendous growth and really putting forth that effort. We celebrated our character trait for the month of September as well. And we had a homeroom attendance award. And that comes with an honorary traveling Wildcat statue. So the homeroom class with the best average attendance for a month receives a wooden Wildcat statue that they get to display proudly in their classroom. That went to Mrs. Bell's class. We also had an honorary Wildcat award, and I missed him by about 3 minutes. But that award went to Ben Huffman. So for the month of September, Ben Huffman is our honorary Wildcat. And we presented this award to Ben because he's a great partner to Gilmer County Elementary School and a good friend. He spends a lot of time at Gilmer County Elementary School patrolling the grounds, keeping staff and students safe. And I know that's a big priority of his. So we really, really appreciate him and that support. Some upcoming things, the board may see a little bit going on at the playground here at the end of the month. As I understand it, the swing sets will be delivered next week sometime. And the week, I believe, of October 25th, construction will begin for that swing set. And that is a pretty big project. All things considered, there will be bordering and mulch that were included in this project and the assembly. And this does not interrupt the maintenance staff and that crew, because as we have purchased this, it is all things considered. It is the installation, everything. They will come on site, and I have absolutely no doubt that they will do an excellent job, because it is the same folks. They are the same folks that installed our playground originally. They have a topographical picture, or like a top-down picture of the playground, of the way that it is. They know exactly where it's going to go. So I will be coordinating a delivery with them next week, and I'm very excited to bring that swing set to our playground. I think our kids deserve that. I have a very important meeting on Wednesday with the Gilmer County Elementary School Wildcat Pack. Election season is over at the beginning of the school year. We now have elected our new Wildcat Pack at Gilmer County Elementary School. So I will be meeting with them with the topic of school improvement and things that we can do to improve Gilmer County Elementary School, with the folks that probably can give me the most brutally honest advice on how to do that. Maybe aside from the crew that's in this room, the crew that can give me some brutally honest advice. And last, I would like to invite, on behalf of the Gilmer County PTO, I would like to invite the board to come to Gilmer County Elementary School on Thursday evening from 4:30, anytime between 4:30 and 7:30, for elementary age students and below, if they would like to attend, are welcome to come to Gilmer County Elementary School for the first annual Boo Bash. And this thing has grown into an awesome event. So we welcome you guys to come to that. You're welcome to come check it out. It will cost our students nothing for tickets. We're not selling tickets because we have received a generous outpouring of donations to make this happen. And there were some stipulations with those donations. And one of them, and our largest donation of $3,000, was that we do not sell tickets for this. And we said, okay, we won't sell tickets. And we very much appreciated that donation. And there were other donations as well. So once we get through this, we're going to prepare something to thank those people as much as we possibly can. And I will like to keep you guys in the loop of who we are thanking, because those people are tremendous supporters of Gilmer County Elementary School and our students. With that, do you guys have any questions for me?
You are the head of that school, correct?
Yes.
I'm a little disappointed that you didn't know how many kids were out today when I did. Okay. I think that's important. I mean, not just to me, but there's parents in here wanting to know numbers and ask for statistics all year. And we can't, and I'm not saying it's any fault of, I'm not pointing the finger, Tyson, I'm not. But, you know, they're here with an open heart and just at their wits' end. And I know our teachers, our faculty, and our staff are having their own struggles. I get it. But there's a transparency issue between this school system and this community. And simple questions like that, simple questions like, yeah, we had 64 people out today. They made a difference.
Well, and I'm not gonna, if I can respond to that.
Certainly.
I'm not gonna provide you an answer that I can't tell you correct. And if you want that information from me, I'll be glad to bring it to you. A little heads up on bringing it to you, I'll be glad to do it.
Absolutely. And I could have sent you a message, probably should have. But and I'm going to go back to this. 3 years ago, my first year on this board, there were 60-some students absent at that school due to the flu. None of them wear masks. Nobody else was doing it. I wanted, and probably not as many faculty and staff that may be out today. I wanted that school shut down and clean. Now, today we may have, it's easier for us. Maybe we have more supplies and better supplies to clean that building. When we open that door tomorrow and we have 64, or maybe tomorrow there's 80 kids, I don't know. Hopefully there's none, but I'm listening to some of these parents in here. I know some of their kids are going to be what we as a board and we as a system in Gilmer County have to do, Tyson, and I know it's a hard job. God, I wouldn't trade you for 1 second, or you, Mr. Putnam, or you, Miss Mount. But that's your job, not mine. We have to do the best we can to educate these kids under this. And we heard from parents in here tonight that they don't have what they need, even if Mr. Dobbins can do it at home, and I wouldn't want him teaching my kids. So as we move forward in this, and I don't know what the answer is, I really don't. We just have to be able to educate these kids that we are sending home. And that's going to be your job and your staff, and it's going to be on Mr. Putnam and his staff, because I haven't seen the graphs or the stats, but it's going to be a struggle to educate. We can't keep, our kids are better off when we have control in our classrooms. We know that. You know that. And without that, I don't know where the shortfall is of getting the information to them, or the schoolology, or whatever. So I think this board is here to give you any means necessary to make the connection easier when our kids aren't in school. If you need it, ask for it.
Same to you. And if you want information, if there's anything like that in particular, I'll be glad to bring that information again. I just don't want to provide incorrect information. You know what I mean?
May I ask you a question? On something you said? Susan, back to school if I'm asked.
If there are folks going inside, we will have somebody that provides those folks masks, but outside, no, it's not required outside.
Any other questions for Mr. Price? I like what you're doing. You've got the community involved, you've got the students. I know that Wildcat Pack for that council. I've met some of the kids that represent that, and they're proud to represent that. Mr. Putnam. I'm sorry, Todd, you have a question? Go ahead.
I'd like to ask one thing.
Yes, sir.
It's like, I don't know how many people at some elementaries have COVID. Nobody told me. Nobody told me how many people have been in quarantine. Nobody told me that. I've been at every board meeting right here. Everybody's been here. Nobody told me. I have no idea how many are at COVID. I have no idea how many there have been quarantined. I do have strong feelings about quarantining and masks. But I just don't know the situation. And I should know. I should be the first person told. Because I have to make the decision about what goes on that school.
And I can tell you that our senior nurse has done an excellent job of tracking that data and keeping that. So if that's a matter of, if that's what you guys want, if it's a matter of me working with her, but I can tell you right now, she'll have all of the answers to that. Do I personally graph every time, or do I keep that on a list? I do not do that. I don't have the time to do that. But I can absolutely work with the person who does have the time, and that is tasked with doing that.
Well, I think as a board member, we rely on the administration to run the school system. And I think for us to make the policies we need to make, we have to have the information to make those policies. And if we don't have that information, then lots of times we're back in the dark. I don't know if you really if you understand what I'm saying, but I don't know if the other board members feel this way.
Absolutely. I've asked for months or for weeks, Tom. I'm totally with you. To make the decisions we're in charge of making here, we need some statistics.
I agree.
Why do we not know? Do you know how many students?
Mr. Mann, if I'm the one standing here and answering this question, if I could just provide a response to that. I, as a principal, have not been asked to bring you any of that information. And I would be glad to do that. But
I think that's a better question for the superintendent, Mr.
And I'll tell it like I would say it to my wife. I will be glad to tell you that stuff, but I cannot read your mind. And if you want that information from me, I promise you, I will do everything I can to get you that. And I'm not trying to be facetious. I mean that and honest. And if you want information from me, I'll work to get it to you. In my report to you guys, I'm glad to do them every other week. I'll give you that information. Just let me know what you want. If anything you need a new door, if you guys want anything in particular, I will be glad to do that.
Well, and I will say that, we're walking a fine line between HEPA and information, and we're providing the most that we can. We cannot give out information that's personal. We do the best that we can, and we're working with Bev. Bev has been a wonderful resource. She's helping us, but we cannot put out confidential information that goes against HEPA. We're doing the best we can to keep the public informed. And I applaud the principals and Bev and everybody that's working with this. We're doing the best that we can without violating confidentiality.
Well, I think the thing here is, I think what Tom was saying and the way I feel, and I think Doug as well, I think we're just talking about some statistics and some hard numbers here. We're not asking for personal information. And Patty, I believe part of that, and I know you haven't felt well, and I'm right there with you. I've been through it myself here for the last couple of weeks. So, but I think part of that falls back on you more so than the principals. We as board members, when the public approaches us, just like some of those people ask in the crowd this evening, when the public approaches us and wants to know something, I mean, in all the emails that we get, it shouldn't be too far out of the way just to get one email a week or something or a couple emails if in times like we're in now, to let us know just some numbers, no personal information, just some numbers so that we can answer questions and don't appear so divided.
Well, I agree with you, Ryan. I absolutely agree with you. But, numbers are it's only as good as what's reported. Some people don't report everything, and it's a trying time, and we're doing the best that we can.
Okay.
I want kids in school.
Those people that aren't reporting, Patty, who is to hold them accountable?
I don't know.
Well,
that's me. It's a health department. Is their personal physicians? I don't know. But
Ryan and Patty, we'll move on. We'll have that option to bring that up again under board comments. I think that's where a lot of that should be talked about. For the sake of this meeting, let's move forward.
Okay, that's fine.
Anybody else have a question or comment for Mr. Price? Mr. Butler?
Sure. So best count that I have, stay 6 feet away. There are 131 students been quarantined in my school since September the 1st. About 155 quarantines have taken place, which means there's about 25 more that were quarantined more than once. The number that are COVID positive, I do not have and am not privy to all of that information. I can tell you that there are some that were quarantined, about 20 within the past week, and several of those that were direct contacts did develop symptoms and did get COVID. So the ones that are being quarantined, several of those students are developing COVID symptoms and testing positive for COVID, which makes the domino effect sometimes even more when we try to figure out who their direct contacts were. But when they're quarantined, and they've been quarantined for several days and they've developed symptoms, it helps us to not have to quarantine as many students. So part of that system does work. The students are being quarantined and they develop symptoms and they're sick, but they've already been at home for several days. That doesn't mean another 15 kids have to be quarantined because they sat next to that kid for 15 minutes within 6 feet with their mask on. I would just say, and I don't know if I'm privy to say, about 30% of my school has been affected in absenteeism due to COVID since the beginning of this school year. That's going to result in a lot of missing grades. The policy that we're working with our teachers is that there will be incompletes given at the end of this 9 weeks. Our attendance policy is not the same as remote learning. We've not had remote learning. So our policy right now in our attendance states that for every day that you're absent, you have a day to make that work up once you return to school. If that's been 18 days because you've been quarantined multiple times, then you have 18 days to make that work up. And that's not possible to do before the end of the 9 weeks, depending on when you report. So students will have incomplete scores. And I'm not saying that 30% of our school body will have an incomplete grade on their grade card, but I'm expecting 40 to 50 students to have an incomplete on their grade card at the end of the 9 weeks. We're going to extend at least until halfway through the next 9 weeks for students to be able to turn in work that was due in the first 9 weeks. So students are going to be trying to learn what they missed in the first 9 weeks, at the same time coming to school and trying to learn what they need to learn in the second 9 weeks and trying to make up work. We have after-school tutoring. We have 4 tutors for that to try to help alleviate that. We have noontime tutoring for that as well. And we've asked teachers to try to reduce work. The kids would just need to be in person to take tests and things that are secure materials. And that some of the assignments that were given maybe as participation grades in the classroom, that students not be held accountable to those grades while they were at home trying to learn remotely. Those are some of the things that we're trying to do to try to catch kids up. It's not a pretty picture, and it's not good for our students. It's not good for our teachers. It's a messy thing we're doing. One positive I can say about wearing these masks is when a kid is identified as being COVID positive, when those masks are on and we can verify that, there's a group of kids that sit with those kids across 8 different periods that are not sent home for 7 to 10 days, and they get to stay in school. And had we not had the mask on, and we had to follow CDC policies about having your mask off for 15 minutes and being within 6 feet, there'd be a bunch of kids that we'd be sending home, and that is not dictated by me, and it's not dictated by my school nurse, but that's by the health department. And that's what we are told that we have to follow. You probably don't want to know as much about this because it's not the hot topic. But on October 15th, we're having a professional development day for our teachers and staff. We're having a day that we're dedicating to our students. They're still learning on that day. It has to do with math. All of our teachers are finding a math problem or activity to send home with the students on that day that has context to the topic and the class that they teach. And we're asking the teachers to submit those to me, and we review those to make sure it's quality work. But we're kind of focusing on math on this time for October 15th, our first professional development day. On our professional development day, we're receiving training on Title IX and Code of Conduct. We're receiving ELA training on our new adopted English language arts text that we've received. We're also having presentations of our faculty senate, and our principals are providing professional development, me specifically, on our strategic plan goals, on our teacher reflections and goals for teacher evaluations for the year. We're reviewing our data from our lesson plan e-walk that we have been conducting on our lesson plans to make sure that they're standards-based and aligned to the West Virginia content standards. Teachers have been working very hard on what's called pacing guides. They're pretty stressed and challenged with this. They have not done this in several years. October 1st was the date that was due. They're going to continue to work on that if they're not finished. This paces out all the West Virginia content standards for the entire year in one document from which they can then build their lessons, align their lessons to their pacing guides. So it's a pretty good lift, but we're focusing a lot on standards-based instruction. We're also preparing for the second benchmark, which is aligned to the West Virginia content standards. The benchmark assessments that's given to students, we find that our scores, as you know, that I reported with transparency, were low in the first benchmark. We're trying to have every student prepare themselves a goal for how they can increase their benchmark scores. And we've had sessions at every homeroom where they take their benchmark scores, they've set their goals, they've looked within the West Virginia content standards themselves as students, try to find the standards that they are weakest in and what they can do to improve on those before their second benchmark. So that training is still ongoing as well. So these are some of the things that we're working on, some of the things that's coming up for our professional development day on the 15th of October, and I will field questions.
Mr. Butler, I just want to say thank you. You told me the question I asked. You answered it. You don't know, and I'm assuming Tyson don't know, how many kids have COVID. Exactly. That's what you said.
150 quarantine, 131 individual cases been quarantined. How many specifically have contracted COVID and are COVID positive? I do not have that number. That's not that It's not that number is something I can go back to my office and say I can email it. I don't have it.
You don't have it.
I don't have it. Our nurse, our school nurse, is not receiving assistance to do this tracking. Mr. Frazier might come over and help. We might help as administrators. There's not extra nurse or extra help to do the contact tracing. She's doing this in most schools. She has worked many hours beyond the hours that she's paid to work. And I'm just going to tell you that the data sometimes is not at her fingertips, but it's held by the health department.
Right, I understand that, but I just wanted to know why we didn't have that information. Answer that question. We don't have it because you don't have it. Patty don't have it. We don't have that information. If the parents come here tonight and say, well, how many kids you have to go, I have no way of telling them, don't know. And that's part of the problem. We just don't know.
Mr. Moore?
I'm going to reach out to the health department tomorrow.
Thank you, Rob. Jason, go ahead.
With all due respect, and I know I'm the new guy here, so if this is misinformation, tell me. It's my understanding that the high school or the district was given permission to hire or at least advertise for a second nurse, weren't they?
That'd be a question for Patty.
What was the question again? I didn't hear it.
It's my understanding, wasn't the district given the okay to put out a search for a second nurse?
Yeah, we are. We're looking for a second nurse. That's exactly right. Yeah.
It sounds like the one we have now is very overwhelmed. Forgive me, but shouldn't that take a priority?
Yeah, we have it and we're waiting for the funding. And we got to distribute our ESSER fund or ARP fund. But yes, that's what we're doing right now. But it's, we're overwhelmed. We are truly overwhelmed right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Bowden?
I will tell Mr. Clark, before you come on board, I brought the board to need an extra help in nurses because we need to maybe hire at least one, maybe two extra people. We never have to get.
May I say in conclusion, I know I'm here today to speak to the board and answer their questions. I answer every parent's phone call, any parent that wants to come in and talk to me and ask me anything you want to ask. Every phone call I will respond to, every email I will answer, and I will respectfully post any of you that want to come to my office and talk to me. Thank you.
So can I ask one question? Mr. Putnam, I just have one question. No? No? Just step down.
Mr. Craig. The floor.
Brian, Tammy, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, I can.
Just a couple updates. I'm later on the agenda with the steps and the parking lot at the high school for an update on that. HVAC with ESG, Clay to speak about later in the meeting, later on the agenda. I do want to let the board know, as far as the safe schools entry at Gilmer County High School and the meat shop, we do have a meeting with Williams and Schreiber tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. We have given them the green light, so let's start on that. Let's get started. And we will meet face-to-face tomorrow at 2 o'clock with them on that. A short update, since we have a large crowd here, we found out late this afternoon, and just let the board know in the athletic round, our varsity football game that we were going to play at Calhoun this Friday the 15th has been postponed to Monday the 18th. So we will play that game. We're going to play it on Monday the 18th at Calhoun, and then we'll turn around and host Tucker on Friday the 22nd. That was on the original schedule. So just as we have a group here that can help spread that word, that was late this afternoon. That was confirmed. Now that was on Tucker or on Calhoun's side that we had to make that adjustment. They were going through some issues on their side, so that one wasn't anything with us or our football team. We were ready to play Friday night. We told them we'd play Saturday. We just told them we want to play. We play whenever we can play. So we worked with our coach, Mr. Putman, and we will play Monday night at Calhoun with that varsity football game. Like I said, I'll be speaking later on in the agenda with an update on the steps and parking lot at Gilmer County High School. Any questions?
Thank you, Joe.
So we also have senior night for volleyball on Monday as well for anybody interested in coming out.
You know, I don't know if you do regular calls I think a lot of this information is getting, we're just not getting the information. I don't know if that's what it's not. But all these things, if a ball game is delayed, if you have a problem with an outbreak somewhere, we should have that information somehow, either by email or robocall. Like the ball game you talked about, if you send out the robocall.
I did not, but Mr. Minnie, with all due respect, we can do that. We will robocall these people to death if I call them every time we change an app. I will be calling them daily because they are changing daily. You can ask Mr. Putman, his staff, I put his entire staff on every email. Now, we do have a Facebook page and they work that. They try to change it there. But the robocall every time, and I don't care, I'll try to do it, I'll do my best to do it, if that's what the board wants. But we will, at some point, when the next hot topic comes on, you will be getting calls about, we wear your mouth with robocalls. If it's athletic specifically. Now, other information that's important enough to get out, there may be things, and just mention it, we'll look at it. To answer your question fully, I'm not the only one that does it. Mr. Price will do it if it's related to his building. Mr. Putnam will do it if it's related to his building. And then if it's kind of a county thing, it would either be myself a lot of times or the superintendent will do it.
Have we done any robocalls last week?
I have not. I couldn't tell you whether Mr. Price or Mr. Putnam had it. I don't answer them, because like I said, they're pretty awful. We would need one. Yeah, you do like one of the, but I thought your question was athletics. And we make them robocalls every time there's an athletic change, and the answer is no. Can we? Yes, we can make that a thing.
I get robocalls, Calhoun County, and Gilmer County, and I get calls all the time about I just out there game, I just about our district game, where. So I just think that what I'm saying is information is important too. We have to make decisions. If we don't have information, how do we make decisions?
And I might be misinterpreting your response there or whatever. I don't know. Normally we wouldn't discuss with the board about a ball game, whether we're going to play this date or this date. I mean, I'm not against it, but we'll have a lot of discussions, and we'll have daily discussions, and sometimes 5-6 times a day. Especially right now, the last 2 years since I've taken over COVID, there are changes. I mean, I will send him an email in the morning, and it's changed by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So, and I might be misinterpreting your question, Mr. Derek.
Okay, but if you, let's say next week you have a homecoming football game, and you can't do it because of COVID, will you robocall and let parents and everybody in the system know?
We have not with athletic changes, no, sir.
How they know not to go?
I always, the principal, the assistant principal, the 3 secretaries in the office, the coach, if it's a home event, our ticket taker, our clock runners, and all that are on one email. The officials, the signers, there's about 20 people in email. The coach is in there to tell the team. The team then goes home and tells the parents, or however the coach is communicating with parents. And we do that in different ways. So however that coach communicates, but a lot of times word of mouth, I guess, would be the best answer. But I mean, I don't know. Facebook. I'm not saying there's not a better way, but I do feel as many changes as there have been in the last week. I took over as athletic director in the basketball season of last year, and as many changes as there's been in athletics. Lance Woodford said, runs a sports complex. So in spring sports, he's involved in those. As many changes that have taken place, it's an unbelievable amount of changes. I do think we've done a pretty good job of communicating those changes. We don't have our teams, it could happen, don't get me wrong. We don't have our teams going somewhere where there's not a game. We haven't had officials showing up where there's not a game. I don't think we've had mom and dad going somewhere to play where they didn't know the game was canceled. So I do think the communication is taking place. I do think it's working. Is there a better way? There probably is. And I'm more willing to do whatever. But making a call every time, I think, would be almost impossible. Every time it's a change.
Mr. Frazier, I agree. You've done a wonderful job keeping up with everything. So it's a changing time, and we will make sure that everybody gets notified. Thank you, Mr. Frazier.
Any other questions?
The robocall, I don't get it. Do you get it?
No, it's not anybody's fault in here, it's just that I don't answer that phone. So.
I am not available. I am not available.
Well, Mr. Smitty, all my phone calls are on this. I have a home phone. It rings a lot. I don't answer it. So they may be on there, they may not.
And this may be wrong or right, Mr. Manning, but one thing we do try to do with the robocall, I'm being dead serious here, we try not to robocall these people to death because they might start not answering. And a lot of times when we're making that phone call, there is information that we want them to listen to. And we want them to, I get calls all the time when I throw something at the end of the message. Hey, school was canceled, the staff report. Half our staff doesn't report because they said, well, I quit listening to your call. And I do think we can robocall them to death. I don't know.
Joe, can you add the board to your 20 names that you send out?
I could do that. I can do that.
I think that'll help us.
I can do that.
When we get questions and comments, at least we'll be in the loop.
That's the best way I found, Mr. Thompson, to be dead honest, is I try, everybody's involved in that contest, I try to put them on the email.
And I think that gives this board
I can do that.
opportunity to know what's going on.
Yeah, that's fair. Stay on me now. If I mess that up, stay on me.
And robocall system,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
because I was getting robocall before.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten
The good thing is it's changed, but they haven't taken away the old one yet. I still want to know the old one. I'll just be dead honest with you. Your daughter's real mad at me in the tech world because I haven't even learned the new one yet. But thank goodness the old one still works. The new one has all the bells and whistles, and I think it's going to be a great, great system. I just need to learn how to use it. But lucky for me, the old one still works. So I'm still using the old one if I'm calling it, and I'm using it the same way I've ever used it. These
Until
people have
Sally gets hold of it.
myself, and I do believe they are using the new one. I couldn't speak if they've made phone calls this year that you're not getting or whatever. They would have to answer that.
Well, until Shelly gets a hold of you, and then you might be a different story.
Thank you, Joe.
But there is.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier.
Robocalls, I'm telling you, but my neighbor got it, and I don't.
We can look, the old one, and like I said, the new one has all these bells and whistles that the old one didn't. I can tell you the old one, I could look up a report and it'd tell me what time I called Tom Minnie. It'd tell me whether you answered or whether it went to your answer machine. So I'm sure this newer, better option that I need to learn more about can run a report and say whether you're getting called or not. And there probably is an issue, probably as simple as maybe the audience starts shooting. You're not that obvious.
Let's move on. Mr. Nate, can you give us an update on the Career Center?
I attended the first Career Center meeting. That since I've been on the board, I took me through every conversation. I will say that I did a quick tour while I was there, and I was really impressed with the different kinds of things that they have to offer the young girls and boys in this county. For example, and I don't know how many of you people are familiar with it, but they have building construction, automotive, metals, and deep welding. They have many other things, technology where they can learn programming and networking, and the things that they need to learn to go to work in the field of technology. Health field, which is there's a big demand for these people now, and health fields, the nurses and aides, and so forth. Business, education, they have criminal justice, they go to school there, they're out there, they go downtown to the police. The many areas that they have, and the way our society is changing, I think we're going to have to start looking more at going into the technical fields and directing students into these areas. I personally know young people in this county that graduated in the metals field, for example, that goes to work welding on the pipeline and the press, and don't make twice as much money as people make with a college education. There's lots of benefits this vocational education department can provide for your children in Gilmer County. It's really a good thing. The other thing, the one thing that they talked about that I wanted to make the board aware of at our meeting specifically was Calhoun County and the Career Center awarded their staff $200 a year extra for this year from the COVID relief money. And that was done to the Calhoun staff and the Career Center. But I would suggest anybody here that hasn't seen the Career Center what it does, to go down and get a phone with Mr. Stern. Look at what's going on down there. There's just lots of good programs. And, you don't, the trend I think is going to be, you go to a technical center like that and you get in the computer field, for example, networking, you go to work for Amazon, you start out $20 an hour and they bag and everything else. And you go to school here, get 4 years of college, then $80,000 that you can never pay back when the government sets up the payback schedule. And you're always in debt there. And there are other alternatives, and that vocational center is helping provide those alternatives. And I think we need to educate our children about that. And maybe Mr. Putnam does, I don't know, I haven't discussed that with him at all. So they may fit very well know what's going on.
I have a son down there.
Okay.
I've been down there, and there's good programs.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Rennie? Let's move on into the new business, steps and parking lot.
With the steps and parking lot at Gilmer County High School, we opened bids on October 7th. Unfortunately, we were not happy with the response. And what I mean by that, we only had one bid. At the mandatory pre-bid meeting, we had five people show up, 5 companies show up, 4 contractors, 1 paving company. And that's what showed up at the mandatory meeting. Unfortunately, only 1 bid. Several reasons were given. Timing was given. Work closer to home that they wanted to prioritize on was given. Between the pre-bid or mandatory pre-bid meeting and the opening of the bids, they were granted other bids, so they had received some other work. Those are just some of the reasons to give you why we only had 1. When working at this and working through this with Clay, our treasurer, with our superintendent, and then with Mr. Putman, our principal, today what we'd like to do is kind of put the parking lot on hold. We bid that parking lot out. We bid a base bid, and the base bid was the teacher parking lot. That's the parking lot right in front of the steps. We also bid an alternate 1, which is that back loop around the building. Mr. Putman, since he's taken over as principal, has started taking some parent traffic out back. That has greatly helped our transportation department, our bus drivers, just kind of keeping those two separated a little bit. We know it needs addressed, so that was alternate 1. Alternate 2 was our student parking lot down in front, below the teacher parking lot, and then that area over in front of the red building, our weight room. With all that being said, it's our recommendation at this time for the board to put the paving on hold. The paving company that did bid was not going to do any work until spring anyways because of the timing of it. They usually shut down the week of Thanksgiving, paving companies do, so we weren't going to get any paving done until spring anyways. It'd be our recommendation, let's put it on hold, and let's come back with a paving package in the spring, late March, early April, and let's bid another paving package of the teacher parking lot, that back loop, and the student. We think we'll get more pavers interested. We think we'll get more competition. Plus, with this paving company, I talked to them specifically, they had to put a little in. They were guessing what the prices would be in the spring. So he had to up that a little bit to make sure he's taking care of himself. So we think we'll get more competitive prices and a better price for Gilmer County. So in saying all that, what we would like to recommend to the board tonight, and to be dead honest, we feel we have no other choice, But we do think we need to move forward with the bid on the high school steps in the amount of $169,356. Somebody's having trouble hearing me.
That's right, I'm serious talking.
After earlier, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm joking. But we do think we should move forward, and again, for the safety of our kids, for the safety of our staff, for the safety of our community, anybody's going up and down those steps, we know it's an issue. And I think we have to address the issue. If the board would vote on this tonight and approve this, we would put them on the clock, not as if tomorrow. They would be notified tomorrow. As soon as some paperwork takes place, we give them the green light, and all the paperwork takes place. They would be put on the clock for 75 calendar days. We would have steps within 75 calendar days if we do this. It is our recommendation that we do accept the bid. The document I gave you shows the $169,356 for the work. That is for the demolishing the current steps, getting rid of that, building the new steps. We're going to go from 52 foot wide to 42 foot wide. We're going to go back into the school a little bit and hopefully alleviate some of the steepness. We're going to lose some of that landing area up top up there to try to take care of some of that steepness. They will build temporary steps out towards the vocational side. As you're looking at the building, that's the left side. There'll be a temporary wooden steps there. And that's how we will go up and down until the steps are completed and while the steps are being worked on. So again, it's our recommendation to accept this bid. You can see the architect fees in there as well. County money and a little bit of excess levy money is what we will use to pay for this. Any questions?
So moved.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? When did they turn this in?
We opened them October 7th. We opened the bids.
We've been down this road before. I mean, I know that Tom brought it up in the past. I didn't see this in our packet. And I just felt I'd like to have had this before tonight, before I'm gonna make a bid. I mean, before my vote's gonna count. I know we need it.
I don't know what date packets go out.
They went out the 5th.
Okay, so packets went out the 5th. The time of the things, there was no time to get your packet. I guess you could have sent an email.
There's been other things since.
Okay.
As late as today. I mean, we've talked about big projects, just having this information. I just think the board needed it. I don't, we talked about on other projects.
I have, every board meeting that I've been in attendance with, I've spoken about the high school steps and teacher parking lot. Every board meeting that I've been at.
I totally agree with that, Joe, but tonight this board's gonna vote to spend $210,399 per of Gilmer County's money. And we're going to, because we need it. The only thing I'd say, this board, I think, deserves it before the rest of this community. With that, anybody else have a question or comment? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Be new steps at the high school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
I'd like to come and talk about the HVAC projects that we've been looking at for the county. We did have a public work session last Monday. I encourage everybody to attend. There are a lot of concerns that we have as a county, but there are a lot of good things that are going on that are going to happen in Gilmer County, and that is something that I take pride in, and I think that we all should. We had a very good meeting last Monday, lots of good discussion, lots of good questions, positive feedback. At the end of that meeting, I did request that we go ahead and move forward with the portions of federal funding that we do have that is eligible to be spent towards our HVAC projects. When I talk about HVAC projects, and there are so many here, we are asking to upgrade HVAC systems at the high school. This will include scrubbers, air cleaners for the school. we are asking that will be upgrades to the high school, some of the BOAG wing, and also putting air scrubbers at the elementary school for the entire building. That is what we are proposing tonight. That's $1,715,127. All of that is paid for by free money. That will cost the county nothing. That will cost the county nothing. I want to be clear on that. Your vote tonight costs the county nothing.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to move forward with the HVAC projects using the money that Clay had just described, the cost of Gilmer County zero. And we'll start the upgrades as soon as possible. We'll be in line with a lot of others, but hopefully by making this move tonight, we'll be ahead of it.
We'll stay ahead of the game.
And I thank you and your team, Patty, Joe, and the rest of you, because this is important. You know, and hopefully what this does for your children that are in the school system, these HVACs will have better filters, better, we'll be breathing cleaner air at Gilmer County Hospital, the board office when you're in here. I believe is there some here for this?
Not for this.
It's got.
That's a discussion for later.
But anyway, it's important, and hopefully with COVID today, I don't know what these can do for them, but I hope there's some. Any other questions or comments? No, sorry. I'm sorry. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't, Patty, we have any old or unfinished business?
No, we have personnel next.
Let's move right into that.
Okay, you want to do the whole thing one time?
I didn't see any reason not to. There's a couple on here I think are awful sketchy, but you would recommend it.
I want to say my name's on that. I just want the board to wait there. If I'm hired, I can't say anything?
No, not yet.
Who's talking? Well, under professional, Leslie Shiflett, elementary, 5th grade student. And then extracurricular, Amber Frazier, resignation for elementary basketball, 2nd, 3rd. Jacob Yoakum, resignation, SAC coordinator. Travis Woodford, elementary basketball coach, 2nd, 3rd. Lance Woodford, elementary basketball coach, 2nd, 3rd. Valerie Matson, elementary basketball coach, 2nd, 3rd. Seth McHenry, elementary basketball coach, 4-5. David Scott Dobbins, elementary basketball coach, 4-5. Timothy White, auxiliary Mini Titan girls basketball coach. We need to repost the auxiliary Mini Titan boys basketball coach. Jason Stewart, Mini Titan head baseball coach. Ben Hall, head varsity wrestling coach. And Jared Fitzwater, head Mini Titan wrestling coach.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. A motion and a second to approve the personnel agenda of at the recommendation of the superintendent. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Patty?
Okay, superintendent information. I mean, we're still working on everything. It's fluid. We will get back with what we need to do for the mask and the quarantine, but we're doing what's best for our kids, and that's what we're going to do. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I want our kids in school, and I want them safe.
Anybody have any questions for the superintendent? We'll move into board comments, and I'm going to start first. I don't know how to go about it. I don't even know if it's our responsibility. I had asked a week ago that the health department be invited to this meeting. Whether they're invited or not, I don't know, but obviously they're not. This community, it's very apparent to me, by the parents and what you had to say tonight, that you're not here because you don't like them. You're here because you want what's best for your children. And you want what's best for the children of Gilmer County. I'm no scientist, I'm no doctor. Do masks work? I can't answer that question. What I want is, if this board can put it together, this community deserves a public forum where these parents can get answers. We don't have those answers. This board doesn't have those answers. And I don't even know if it's something that we can do. But you people come here week after week, and I appreciate it. Because, I mean, if you just came once and I'd say that, they're just making a scene. But it's a passion. I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong. I'm not here to judge that. I'm just here that there's got to be transparency. We've got to come together as Gilmer County. This division is not, the division is going to hurt. So we have to sit down some way and be able to move forward together. Now, I don't know what that is. I don't have those answers. And I'm going to tell you I don't have those answers. But if we're getting guidance from the health department, if we're getting guidance from other sources, let's bring them in. You people have questions that Mr. Minnie, Mr. Barr, Brian Kennedy, and Tammy, and myself, and Patty can't even answer. But someone maybe can. And Ms. Chapman has a senior getting ready to graduate, that it's a struggle. It's been 3 years, 2.5 years since he's had any normalcy. Now, is this meeting going to help that? I don't know. But I feel if we come together, ask questions, are respectful and transparent with each other when we leave, maybe we're in a better position than we are sitting here tonight. But you can see there's a divide. I don't know if you call it a divide. There's an issue. There's parents in here that don't want to send their kids to school. There's parents in here that want to send their kids to school. We send them home. And we keep some of them, and I get questions and calls, and I'm sure every other board member in here does too, that there seems to be a discrepancy in one quarantine as opposed to the other. Whether somebody was at a softball game or somebody's eating lunch or somebody's in wherever it was, I don't know. I don't have those answers. But what I would like to do, if it's possible, is let's open this up for discussion with people that can answer. And whether it's a guidance from the health department or a mandate, because I struggle with those. Any other comments?
I've got Doug.
Go ahead.
I appreciate you guys coming and once again, what you all say to me doesn't fall on deaf ears, and I'll reach out to just a few points. I apologize for not having the answers, like Doug said earlier, and the rest of the board, to the questions that some of you ask. And I do have a few answers to some of those questions of what I've been told, but I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not an educational administrator, nor am I a teacher. So I'm not going to pretend like I know what's best, and I try to keep my own personal opinion out of this. But what you guys are saying, it's not falling on deaf ears. But as general appearance goes, there's only so much to be done. And here's something else I would ask you to keep in mind. I said the last time I had opportunity to speak that I did believe in democracy, and I do. And I put very little faith in anything to do with social media, but I'm going to put this out there. There was a poll after the last heated board meeting. There was a poll, and it was one of the parents asked, "Do you believe that the children should wear a mask or not?" And I'm not very good about reading anything like that on social media. I don't participate in any of that, but I took the time to read that. And as I could see, and some of you guys are familiar with this, as I could see, it came back nearly 50-50. So as I am not a mask wearer, as I question so many of the things that were mandated, and I question so many of the things we're told, believing in democracy, I believe that everybody's voice needs to be heard. So I believe collectively, and Doug is exactly right, We need some sort of a public forum. It needs to be respectful. It needs to be completely under control. But I believe also that there would be a better assessment of where everybody stood. And in closing, I would ask that we be cautious, not to start an anti-levy wave for the Board of Education of Glenville, because we're upset, we're frustrated. We all want answers that we can't get, me included. But we have to be careful with that, because the children will be the one that suffer. I assure you, with what I get paid for what I do for the Board of Education, we couldn't have a picnic. There's not anybody on that Board of Education that's reaping any financial benefits. Nothing will be taken from anybody that matters other than the children. So let's be cautious. And I say that among friends that I've known all my life that are sitting there. So let's be cautious of starting a wave that is anti-school levy, because these things can gain momentum, and then there's no turning it back, and our children will be the one that suffer. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Brian.
Tammy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Were you talking?
I just kind of want to reiterate really what you both said, as far as, we don't all have the answers, and we all come from different backgrounds. And again, like Brian said, we try really hard to keep our personal opinion out of things. Even though I think it's very clear where each of us probably stands. However, knowing the answers to those questions, knowledge is the key with anything. So, getting more in-depth information might help make both sides understand things a little bit better. But I also want to reiterate kind of what Brian said too, as far as the anti-levy, because in all honesty, not voting for a levy based on, what the levy itself would stand for is one thing, but because of this situation, all it's going to do is hurt our children in the long run. Because as you can see, those levy funds actually go to very good use. So that's the only thing I had to say this evening.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, the other thing that I think I addressed already is the problem with the robocall system. If you change the new system, something that's not working like it, but at least I'm not having the calls like I was. And I don't know if there's any problems with it. That's been said about it. We don't know anything about it. But the other thing I think is important tonight, I think that's been cleared up a lot of things to a lot of people. Look, we don't have the information, we can't give you that. That's the fact. And I appreciate that.
I would just really kind of echo what everybody else has said and about the information and the privacy and stuff. It's killing us at the college too. We have students missing, 1, 2, 3 weeks, and all we're told from the administration is they're going to be out. We assume it's COVID, but they're going to be out. There are very strict laws about that, like Patty said, and it makes it very, very difficult to get hard numbers on any of this. It's really, really frustrating. I absolutely understand Mr. Putnam's frustration at this and prices. I get it.
Well, before we adjourn, in closing, thank you for coming. Your voices are heard. Every board member here, as Brian said, we're not here for a monetary gain. We're here to make the best decisions that we think we can put forward for the children in Gilmer County. Is that always the case? You'll have to be the judge of that. But I just hope that we can come together and sit down at some point in the near future and have a discussion where we feel like we know. We may not like the end result of it, but we feel like your questions can get answered to somebody that has an answer for the question. I make a motion to adjourn.
Yes.